Good evening, 12s, and welcome to the Seahawks 360 podcast. I'm Candace Higgins,
Now I'm Tino and Candace.
and we are back to react freshly to the official 53-man roster cuts. We got some season predictions for you guys as well, so it should be a pretty fun show. We got a lot to get into. Uh, Tino, a lot of surprises, I think, in my opinion, when looking at this 53 man. What let's start big picture. Like what
Uh,
stands out to you and when you're looking at this overall roster, and then we can get into some of the moves that surprised you.
I think what stands out to me is the commitment to the O line and to the tight ends and to the running game, really. So you keep what amounts to two fullbacks, at least how they're listed. Four tight ends plus two fullbacks is very different, right? Very interesting. You're used to, three tight ends and no fullbacks typically. So that's twice as many players in those two buckets as normal. We'll discuss it, but there's some different names on the offensive line that I think most people expected. A couple moves. So that stands out most to me when I look at it. And then on the defensive side, the linebackers are pretty different than what I think most expected as well. So let's dig in. There are I don't think any of these surprises are going to fundamentally impact this team, other than maybe the MVS Marquez
Mhm.
Valdez Scantling transaction.
Yep.
But they are interesting on the margins. This is how teams get better. I think when teams aren't afraid to make changes on the margins, you can incrementally kind of get to a better place. You see this in other sports quite a bit. I'm glad that they did do stuff. I don't agree with all of it, but I do like the activity for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we'll start with I guess the hotly debated um Marquez Valdez Scantling
Hmm.
being cut or waived. Um I know we talked about that. I think in one sense, I will say this: by the third preseason game, and we didn't get the chance to really talk about that and how much they played him, I was like, okay, they may really get rid of this guy. When I
Hmm.
made my predictions, I sort of just had an extra spot, and so I was between him and Cody White. I thought that they figured that they could sneak Cody White on the practice squad, and so they would just keep MVS mostly just because of the Jake Bobo injury, and I thought maybe that would scare him. If not for that situation, I was like, well, he would be gone, but he was gone anyway. It didn't matter about Jake Bobo's, concussion, injury scare, nor the fact that they technically afforded. I mean, they kept six. They did keep six wide receivers,
Right.
which I did predict, but they just kept a different six. Yeah, it makes sense to me. I don't disagree with it. Again, my only concern is later on down in mid-year when teams begin to really adjust to how this team is playing. Do they have the personnel to I don't know, to challenge the defense down deep? I don't think they do, but they can trade. I mean, you don't have to keep MBS on the roster to get that. You can see what falls to you later on in the season. Hopefully, that's their approach and their mindset about it.
Well, and maybe they're not going to want to go deep as much as we may think they will. They also may be trying to stretch the field more. You can stretch it horizontally more than vertically. I
Yep.
also think that Horton has the speed to stretch the defense deep.
Mhm.
And I also think that, Cody White, I don't think this made or broke him as far as making the team, but you saw his receiving skills on display in this last preseason game. And that, in reality, in my opinion at least, I think Cody White may be a better all around receiver than MVS. He's just not going to stretch the field as much. So
Yeah.
I like it. The other thing is Cody White and Derek Young are huge, as we've talked about, huge special teams contributors. And so especially with cutting, a player like O'Connell, special teams type contributors. This, I think, you may have to keep those guys in other realms. It might be why Brady Russell made the team, right? As
Yeah.
you spoke of on the last pod. So I like it. I think more than anything, it means that Horton gets an opportunity to get some real playing time early. I think he's earned it. I think his talent says you should do that. He's inexpensive. And then the question also is, I know we disagree on this, but when you're truly competing for a Super Bowl, is MVS going to still be around? And the
Yeah.
reality is he's not. So I would rather I would rather get reps to players that I think might be here, later, and we can develop for the future than thinking about the now. I thought I love the move. I think it speaks to the direction of this team. It speaks to the mindset of both the coaching staff and the front office in cutting him.
Yeah, no, definitely agree. I think special teams played a really big part in a lot of these surprises. Honestly, when you go down and look at people like Connor O'Toole, for example, making the roster, or a Ty Okada, who I had a feeling they really liked him anyway. They sort of, he got reps in even in the regular season last year, so he's definitely a guy that they like. But I think also contributes to special teams,
Right,
and I think special teams might need all the help it can get.
right.
If Jay Harbaugh is going to keep his job, we'll see. But anyway, I think they're trying to make sure they've got a talented group at least, so that you know, should things still be spotty, I think they'll know exactly where to point the finger to.
hmm Let's go. We'll just go position by position pretty
Okay.
quickly. I think quarterback. No surprises. Obviously, keeping three quarterbacks. They don't always keep three, but the pick of Milrow meant that you were keeping three. You look around the
Mhm.
league; a lot of teams are starting to do that now.
Yeah.
That third quarterback, obviously being the developmental guy. Running back. Was I disappointed that Damian Martinez was cut? Absolutely. Um, I think it was predictable. I thought there was a chance they would keep him. I would have kept him. I think his upside is still much higher than Holani. I know they're going to try to slip him through to the practice squad. I, I I do wonder if he'll make it. My guess is no as of right now, but we'll see. But in looking at the list, say Martinez doesn't make it, but Jacardier Wright does. I think having Jacardier Wright on the practice squad is a positive, right? I like him a lot too. But I am disappointed to see Martinez go because I think he didn't have a chance to show what he's capable of. I also think Olani's a better player this year than he was last year, and I don't know if they expected him to show up that way either.
I don't see it with Martinez. I think his acceleration being too slow, and I'm not sure I'm seeing enough power to offset his pretty slow acceleration. It takes him a long time to get going, and you got to have some power, man. And some of the third preseason game reps I saw, I just didn't see it. I think on college tape it looks good, but I think in the NFL I'm not sure even if they did make it, that Wright would not make it over Martinez based on performance at this point. I think Cartier Wright's showing you a lot. I think he's showing you some burst, some explosion on a team that needs it desperately, and that might be more valuable. And so we'll see. I definitely wish him the best. That Damian Martinez, I'm not a hater by any means, but
Oh, yeah, you're a
I
hater.
think, frankly, I think Wright
You're a
beat him
hater
out.
for sure. You're for sure a hater, but that's okay though.
I'm not a hater. I don't know anything about the young man, really. I don't. I just know what I see on the field, and I know Wright is looked better in multiple spots. And
I think they look different, and I think that Martinez he was this way in college too. He was a slow burn, right? He needed carries, and he does have power. I wonder if he was injured a bit here as
that's true.
well. I
Mhm.
think I do think he's going to have an NFL career. I think he could be a very good running back. I was excited for it to be as a Seahawk. We'll see if that happens. But he does have power. But he's a more patient runner. I think that's the word that comes to me more so than lacking burst. I think he's a more patient runner. He was that way in college quite a bit. He may not have been the right fit for this scheme either, right? As somebody who's a little bit more patient, but we'll see what happens. I think the other interesting thing is I do think there's a real chance that Charbonnet, kind of like I talked about a couple podcasts ago, I think Charbonnet is at minimum going to share carries with Walker, but it would not surprise me to see them flip roles a little bit based on everything we're hearing and what we saw in the preseason. But interesting position group, definitely happy for Holani. Loved him last year, as you know, um, and we'll see what happens with the other guys.
Yeah, I think if we see a switch, it'll be after a few games. I think they want to give K9 a chance to to show up and to show he can do it in this scheme and show he can be an explosive player. But I do
Mhm.
think that he's on a very short leash. And frankly, Charbonnet is waiting in the wings. I think they'd love nothing more. I think internally for Charbonnet to take over that job, they also just can't argue with the talent that K9 is.
Right.
And John's probably got pulled
Well,
in probably advocating a little bit also for K9 and making sure that he gets proper
well, you
reps.
wonder you wonder if it's a I don't know if it's a one and a two as much as it is 1A 1B.
Mhm.
And
maybe.
that's, because Charbonnet has been nicked up at times, and K9 obviously has injury issues. So even if you're a huge believer in K9's talent, which I am, I think it's more prudent to give him, 10, 12, 14 carries a game, right? And a
Mm,
couple catches out the backfield. And then Charbonnet gets 10, 12, 14 carries a game
mm,
and has more of the short yardage stuff, right? Where it's more of a job share than it is one person carrying the load. And I think given their talent level and their injury history, I think that would be the smart decision,
right.
um, to share
Agree.
that load,
Agree.
especially if they're going to run the ball as much as they're talking about.
Right.
All right.
Agree.
Fullback, I don't think there's any surprise. Well, Robbie Oots
Yeah.
making the team is not a surprise. Brady Russell making the team and being listed as a fullback, I think, is a surprise.
Yes.
Um, Special teams value, absolutely. I think that's a huge part of it. Um, but in conjunction with fullback, we'll talk about tight end because I think we both thought that if Russell was kept, he would be the fourth tight end and the backup fullback. But
Correct.
they decided to keep two Brady Russell, Robbie Oots, and keep four tight ends. So Nick Callerup, the UDFA from Minnesota, was the fourth tight end that they kept. What do you think
Right.
about that?
I'm boy, we're gonna be running some ball.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I don't remember the last time I've seen a roster construction like that,
Mm-hmm.
frankly. Uh, I don't. I mean, I heard positive things about Nick Collar. People were saying he stood out. Maybe a dark horse guy. But the longer camp went on, the more people just stopped talking about that. You didn't really hear much from him. I am not familiar with his game. But the fact that they kept that many tight ends and Brady Russell, I'm floored.
So a
And
lot.
frankly, I don't know if it's going to stay that way. I can also see a situation where they pick someone off waivers. Callep's the first one to go, so I'm not sure. In fact, I would not put a bet on him making it when we get to week one. But again,
Right.
it goes to show just what is important to this team and their identity, which I appreciate. We've talked, like you said, we've talked for years now about the lack of identity. It is clear and is consistent. And I think in everything we've seen, they've backed up what they said. We talked a lot about wanting to be a running team, but no coaching staff or no offensive coaching staff has put together their offensive line or their offensive roster
Game plan
to
or roster, yeah.
complement that. Yeah, like
Mhm.
it's not been based on running the ball. This is
Right,
this is
right.
ground and
Very much
pound right
so.
here.
Very much so. You know me, again, I didn't necessarily think I might have kept a different running back. I might have done something different with the line, but the reality is, this is the brand of football that gets me excited.
Mhm.
Right? I don't get excited about a spread offense. I don't get excited about four wide receivers. Right? For me, it's let's run the ball down your throat. You can't stop us. Watch what happens. Right? That kind of football, and that's what very much what they are lining up to do. I still think it's important to acknowledge. You have JSN, you have Arroyo that you think is going to be a stretch the field type of tight end, right? You have to have threats, you have to have explosiveness. But yeah, it's we wanted an identity. Well, here's your identity, right? We are keeping four tight ends, two fullbacks. We're keeping linemen that the type of linemen that we think we want. This is going to be ground and pound, and I'm here for it. I'm excited.
Can I also add that even though it's clear that they are going to have an identity,
Mhm.
they still kept roster spots for developmental wide receivers.
Yes,
And I like that balance. Like even though, we're seeing this run heavy personnel, they still prioritized wide receivers, some growth from the young guys and, having them develop like Derek Young and giving him an opportunity. I mean, at least to even stay on the team. And I sometimes in these situations where you're going so heavy out run game, you can see that they skimp out on the wide receivers or they, really cut down on that number. In fact, a lot of people thought that they would go with
keep
five
five.
wide receivers. They still went with six, even though one of them was an MBS.
Right.
They still went with six, which I like a lot. It shows the balance. It shows that even though Yeah, they're going to have an identity. They also are building in contingencies, and I'm not sure that this is the six wide receivers that maybe would um would be answers to those contingencies necessarily, but they are factoring that in even early on. So
I might argue. So Horton, yes, I think Horton is legitimate. He might start week one, right?
yeah,
Legitimate wide receiver.
right.
I think Young and White were kept primarily for special teams. I don't know that they see them as developing them as wide receivers necessarily. I think White has shown that he can catch the ball. I said to you before we got on, he might be a better all around wide receiver than MVS is, right? Because he does have some pass catching skill. But you look, I don't think it's a coincidence. Cody White is 6'3", 227. Okay.
Hmm.
Derek Young, 6'2", 224.
Yeah,
So they kept them. Those are big dudes, obviously. They kept them because they wanted big, well, hold on, big wide receivers.
yeah. No, I agree. I definitely agree. Now, I will say I push back on the Derek Young thing a little bit because with Derek Young, I think he really showed up in camp, man. I really thought he had a very strong camp as a wide receiver. I thought he made some big catches. I thought he showed a little bit more shiftiness, so a little bit more explosiveness. I mean, he's taken a step. I'm not going to say a big step, but I think he's taken a step to be a valuable role player on a, fringe team, right?
Right.
And we'll see if he can develop into more than that. But I think he has earned this spot. Yes, special teams is a factor. I know it is for a lot of these decisions. It was, but I also think even if he wasn't as strong of a special teams contributor, I think that he would still have made this roster because I think he's clearly the number four, honestly, like behind Torrey Horton. Well, I guess he
Bobo,
and Jake Bobo could
Bobo,
hack it out. I
right?
don't know though, and it depends on how they probably situational matchup because I think there are also some
Sure.
instances where they might lean on Young. I could
Right.
see it can probably be situational, but they'll be competing. I think all year, Bobo and Young, for the right to own that spot is who I
Right.
receiver for.
I I like the fact that again, I think there's a focus on everywhere in the margins or on the margins, it's there's a focus on special teams,
Hmm.
right? That's I think that was MVS's undoing is
Yeah, it was.
he can't play special teams, right? So you've got White, you've got Young, you've got Russell, who's a very good special teams player. Holani can play special teams if you need him to. Callerup and Salbert certainly can play special teams if you need them to, but they're also big run blockers, right? Even on the defense, O'Toole, Drake Thomas, those are special teamers. Okada. So I think that to me really does stand out as a theme. That's and that's always the tiebreaker. We know that that's always the tiebreaker as to whether you keep someone is can they be an effective special teams player. But I don't know. It's just it's interesting, right? It's not boring, and that's the one thing that I said before was I wanted to let's do something. I want it to be fun. Usually you can predict the 53 within a couple of dudes. Not
Hmm.
this time. Not this time.
No, no, and
Not
I
at
think
all.
also that probably was Martinez's undoing. To your point,
Sure,
his lack of ability to produce on special teams.
sure.
But I also wanted to make another point. Actually, do you? Hold up. I think I smell also the money that's burning that John Snyder lit on fire again by getting MVS. It's yet another just light that thing on fire. Just
It
that money is
wasn't
just
that much. It
light it up.
was
That's
what
three
was
million
this
dollars I smell
3 million?
burning up.
But I think what was the guarantee? Was the guarantee a full 3 million? I think
Yeah,
that
I
the
think
cap
they. I
hit
think
or
that's
they
going to be
saved.
that.
I think they saved just under 1 million on the cap by cutting him now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. That was clearly
John and free agency. It's a separate thing, but we really got to evaluate John Snyder in free agency. I think he needs to get a bit more
well.
flack for
Here's
how
what's
many misses
interesting.
this man gets.
What's interesting to me is that the MVS skill set, right, which is a field stretcher, a speed guy, doesn't even have to catch the ball all that well, just kind of a fast field stretcher type of dude. You find those guys in the fourth, fifth, sixth round, right?
Yeah,
Look where they picked Horton, and I think Horton's better than that, and he
yeah,
dropped because of injury. But
right.
you find those guys anywhere.
Yeah.
So the idea that they had to sign somebody to go do that is kind of crazy to me because he's nothing special. He doesn't have very good hands
No,
and he's nothing special as a receiver. He's floated around the NFL. So the fact that you felt the need to bring in a veteran to play that spot when you could have used a much lower pick on a player with the same skill set is weird to me. And that's not to say that any dude who's 6'2" and 200, 210 pounds and can run a sub 4.4 can do that, but some of them can. A lot of them can. You pick the right one and they can. So yeah, I don't know. It was a little bit strange. I do want to add too. I think it's fascinating that you got now three of the four tight ends are now Barner's much more well-rounded, and I think he's turning out to be a very good tight end. But
Mhm.
Barner, Salbert, and Callerup are like primary blockers, right? That's what
Right.
they do best. That's why they're on the team for the most part. I find it really interesting that they kept that many run blocking tight ends. I do think if scheme wise, if Arroyo gets hurt, they're either going to
Yeah.
have to bring someone in that's more of that move tight end type. Um, because otherwise the scheme's not going to work as well because you're just going to have more plotters. Maybe they see Barner as being able to play some of that role and using his size and his pass catching ability as opposed to speed. I don't really know. But I found that interesting too. Three of the four are big time blockers. It's clear what they're trying to do.
Yeah, they said the ghost of Pharaoh Brown won't happen again.
Yeah,
They will
exactly.
they will not be in that situation again.
Speaking of free agent money, right?
Yeah. Lit on
um,
fire yet again. But let's get into
so
this O line, man. It's interesting of
yeah,
what they chose to do. So they let LeMayo walk, which ultimately, as count went on, I found that to be least surprising. He was rough. He had a rough
he did.
preseason, just a
Mhm.
turnstile. I mean, he
He
looked
did.
like Stone Forsyth on the inside out there. At
It wasn't
times,
that bad.
it was
He
that
wasn't no
bad.
stone. He wasn't no stone Forsythe. Don't be clowning him like
It
that.
kinda bad. It's pretty rough. Now, I do think that that is purely I think he's a scheme guy. I think if you put him in a gap scheme, he'll
Sure.
look a lot better, but
Yep.
man, was it rough.
Yep.
Which isn't the best stuff because I think he's talented still. I just don't think it's a good fit for him.
Right.
Also they kept Cable Dude,
Yep.
kept so who was that he played?
Mason
Oh,
Richmond.
Richmond, Mason
Yeah.
Richmond. Which
When he had
I
been getting
thought they were
reps.
gonna keep Richmond. I didn't think they'd keep Cable Dude.
Well, and Richmond had been getting reps that were Laumea's before, right? So that
Right,
writing was kind of on the wall.
right.
I think they like that versatility too. I think
Mhm.
Cable Duke can move around the line a little bit, and he looked good at the beginning of preseason too. And we didn't talk about him as much as time wore on, but yeah, I think now you drafted players for a different scheme last year.
Yeah.
Now you've got this very clear outside zone scheme. And as you said, sometimes players just don't fit it. Like
Mhm.
maybe Jarrell didn't fit it, and that's why they traded him to the Falcons to get something back.
Yeah,
I was sad to see that because I like Jarrell. I thought
I do
Jarrell
too.
was a player, but to see him get an opportunity and for the Seahawks to recoup, even if it's a low pick, to recoup a pick is always good business. And then they put Christian Haynes on the injured list, but I think he could come off after 4 games. And I do wonder though, like, is this a way to keep an extra dude and they're just trying to hide him, or is he actually injured? Right? I don't.
Mhm.
I question whether he, because you don't want to cut him, right? You don't want to catch your third round pick from last year if you see anything from him at all.
Yeah.
But I don't know. As much as I liked Laume and Jarrell last year, and I was excited for them coming into this year, you're right. It's a different scheme. Didn't make sense. They got players who fit the scheme better. You don't keep them just because they were on the team last year. You get rid of them if you have to. So I understand that.
Well, 2 points to that. One is I still think Jarrell played pretty well as a backup tackle. I mean, left
Yeah,
tackle, honestly. I think he actually showed some promise. I and because he showed that promise, he was tradable.
right.
That brings me to my next point. I might maybe I'm reading too much into this. I don't remember the last time the Seahawks had an offensive lineman somebody else wanted. Even if it was just for a seventh. I mean, I'm trying to go back in my mind, right? Like, check me on this. When's the last time the Seahawks had a young offensive line that literally anyone else wanted?
I don't know. Here's
I
the
don't think
funny part. So they traded for him because McGarry went down, right?
yeah.
And I understand that. And McGarry was Penix's blindside tackle. But what's funny, the very first thing that came to mind when I saw that Jarrell was traded to the Falcons was the Falcons were the team in Atlanta when Jarrell and Laumea opened up that huge hole for K9 to score the touchdown on the right
True.
side. And we had
Yeah.
talked about that play quite a bit because both of those linemen looked great on that particular play.
True.
And so sometimes that happens, especially like in basketball, where someone will put up, 40 on another, hang 40 on another team, and then the other team ends up trading for that dude later because they remember that impression or that game. That was the
Yep.
first thing that came to my mind was Jarrell was the one that really, really, truly opened that hole. And I'm
Mhm.
like, they must have seen dude and be like, okay, this young lineman over here opened that hole, and then when it came time to try to replace McGarry, maybe that came back to mind. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'll still watch him. I don't know why, for whatever reason, I felt invested in he and Laumea quite a bit last year, and I do wish him the best for sure.
Yeah. Definitely.
The
All right. So we
only
got some.
Go
Oh, go
ahead,
ahead.
go ahead.
No, no, no.
I
Go
was
ahead. I
supposed
was
to
going
say,
to
the only
transition to
question
defense.
now is, does Olu start or does Sundell start at center?
I think it's clear Sundell. I think how the third preseason game went.
Hmm.
I think Sundell has that spot. I think they want to keep the continuity, which Mike McDonald has said he wanted to pick, his guys earlier in camp in terms of who were going
Yeah,
to be the starters. And I think Olu at that time before he went down was a starter, but Jalen Sundell just showed more upside. And I
right,
think until he loses that position, then they
right,
know they got a solid backup in Olu. I don't think Olu lost it as much as Sundell just rose to the occasion and
right,
grew
right.
and took to the coaching and took to the scheme. And I don't
Yeah,
think it'll be perfect,
it
but
doesn't bother me at all. I think he's a little more. He has the chance to be a little more dynamic. I think
mhm,
Olu is like a hold it down for you kind of dude, for
right.
a couple of games, more so than he is a legitimate starter. I wanted him to be better, but I don't think that's who he is. I also think it's not. It probably does have some value, like you talked about, that he played with Zabel in college, right? When you have
Mhm,
a guy next to you that you played with before, and you can communicate and you understand one another. That's what line play is all about in a lot of ways,
right.
is being able to work in unison. So it's cool. Like again, I kind of like Martinez. I will miss Laumea, I'll miss Jarrell, but I think the team is, they made the prudent decision in keeping those dudes for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you take upside. I think I'm not gonna say Olu's not a guy who can start. I think he was fine last year. He was not the problem. But I also think there is a clear ceiling
Right,
on what Olu's gonna be. And we heard Clint Kubiak talk earlier this year about how he wanted an elite level center. Now,
right.
I'm not going to say that undrafted free eight the undrafted guy is that he's elite. But I think he shows some elite athleticism. I think he's got some elite
Okay.
traits to him.
I was gonna
His
say he
ability to
can
get to
move
the
better.
second level,
Right. He can move better.
yeah, his
Yep.
ability to get to the second level, and then like you said, that connection that he already had with Zabel, it
Yep.
sort of gives you elite light, maybe. And
Right.
I think Clint Kubiak's like, yeah, I'll take it.
Right.
I'll
Sure.
take
It
it.
wouldn't surprise me either, though, to see them draft a center high or sign a
Mhm.
center next year,
Yeah,
or not that they would want to mess with Zabel, but Zabel has the ability to play center
yeah,
if they needed him to, and maybe they find a guard that is a good fit, and then Zabel ends up being that center. I don't know, but I'm calling. It's I'm not. We want to see it in the regular season, like I talked about before, but I think this is a good group to go into the regular season with, and there's talent down the road, right?
mhm.
You want to see what Richmond and Cable Do are all about, but clearly they have some confidence in them, and that works for me. So far, so good.
Yeah. I think this is the obviously it could still go south. But in terms of talent, this is a pretty talented offensive line. I think Jalen Sundell. Now he's undrafted, but you've got Anthony Bradford, who was a third round pick and who is touted as really talented. We just never saw him put it together on a field
Yep.
during game time, at least. You got Charles Cross, first round pick. You got Abe Lucas. He was third round pick. But I think he only failed because of injury, like not because of talent, and we know the injuries. We've
He's
seen that
still
played
he's
out.
still falling because of injury.
So, but the talent is clearly there.
Sure.
In the course of Grace Abel, first round pick. I think this is the most talent we've accumulated that position, and they're all really young. They've got a chance to really cement together a, to be a group.
Yep.
In fact, I mean, if I had my way, unless Zabel just proves he's unable to play left guard, I prefer they keep this. If I mean, maybe
Yeah,
replace Bradford,
right,
but
right. I don't
if
know. It's yeah. I think when you look at the draft capital they've used with this line, you expect this line to be good. I do
mhm,
think Zabel just changes the whole dynamic, right? You're not
yeah,
worried about last year we're worried about both guard spots, and we know
yes,
one of them's going to be trash already.
yes,
This year, we're counting on the development of Bradford, but we've seen it in the preseason, and
mhm,
we know that we have. I think it's you can comfortably say Gray Zabel is probably an above average guard already,
yep,
right? You expect that.
or at least
So,
average, at least
right.
average.
So imagine though he's about slightly above average, and I think he could be better
Mhm,
quickly.
I agree.
I think Charles Cross is above average as
Mhm,
a left tackle.
yep,
Now your left side of your line, especially if you have a fullback running through there, you have a blocking tight end on that side, you can almost telegraph that you're running left
mhm,
because you have such skilled players over there, right? Such effective players over there. It's I love it, right? This is a team with the history of Walter Jones and Steve Hutchinson on one side of the line, and they ran left all the time. And now I'm not saying that they're those guys. They're not. Nobody's Walter Jones,
no,
but once you start to be able to count on getting yardage on one side of the line, now you're running play action back the other way, right? You have Darnold rolling to his arm side. There's just all kinds of things that come out of that. So
mhm,
it's exciting. It is. This line is again. I have to see it. I know you're probably more excited than I am. I have to see it first in the regular season, but we have the makings of something very strong down the
mhm,
road for sure.
yep. All right. Speaking of line, I was surprised that for a team so big on the trenches that they went pretty light on the defensive line.
I
I
have to. I have to. When I look at this, so when I look at this list, if you look at D line, was it? It's Morris, Leo, Byron Murphy, Jaron Reed, and if you want to count Dexter Lawrence, but Dexter Lawrence is more of a outside linebacker,
Demarcus.
the end. Demarcus Lawrence, sorry, I always say Dexter Lawrence. More of an outside line, like an edge, than he is a true D end, right? And then I guess Ivy, if you want to put Jared Ivy in that D line group, he's 6'6", 270.
Yeah.
So he's got the size, but that's more of that that five technique that big edge sort of thing. But yeah,
Yep.
it's interesting. They're soft in the middle, a little bit. You've got to wonder if they're expecting someone to get cut that they can pick up because when you look at it, there's no heft, right? Reed is what 310, 305, 310,
Yep.
and Murphy is 300, but he plays on quickness.
Mhm.
Williams is a huge edge or a huge D end if you want him to play that. And Morris, kind of vacillates between a big linebacker and a D end. So it is very interesting. I do expect them to find a nose or someone 320 pounds, Bohanna's body type or Peely's body type or Hankins' body type to be on this team because as of now I don't see it. It's interesting.
I
I don't see it.
it's interesting because I thought that either, and I thought really both, but I thought at least either one of Brandon Peely or Quentin Bohanna were going to make this roster, and maybe they made the decision that they felt like they could stash those guys in practice squad and bring them up as a possibility because they both, by all accounts, had very strong camps, and most people had at least one of them making the roster because of how strong of camp they made. Now, obviously, this is preseason, this is training camp, which is not regular season football, but Bohanna has played some regular season football in spurts, and so I think you like you can count on him, you can bring him up, you can
Right.
have him be a go-to considering John Hakens is like we may never see him again. Who knows?
Right.
um,
Yeah, and they have Riley Mills too. I think that I don't know if they're counting on him, but they did spend a 5 on him.
yeah,
You know,
I don't know if they're counting on him either, though. But
I I
maybe they
would
just plan on practice squadding these guys.
I fully expect them to sign a nose tackle type quickly
Yeah, they
amongst
need
the
to.
cuts. Right. I also think it's interesting. It just dawned on me. They released their list really late, and I wonder if I was the head of a front office, I would release my list at the last possible minute because I would want to see what else is out there before I make my last decision. Right? If I'm the Hawks and I'm and I see that there's a nose tackle that was cut, and it doesn't guarantee you're going to be able to sign him, but I'll be like, man, maybe we can get away with keeping somebody somewhere else, seeing that there are these nose tackles that are available to us that we didn't expect. Whereas you couldn't make that decision if you released your list or you released your players earlier than some other teams, because they released their list at the very last minute. The Seahawks were like one of the last teams to say who they cut. But
Well,
yeah,
they
that's
always they always are. Every year they
that's
always
smart.
are. And I think it's strategy, to your point.
Mhm.
I think it's strategy. It's like that every year. I think that's always in play. So I agree with you.
They're gonna need somebody else though, because Williams, Murphy, and Reed, that's not enough.
Mm-mm.
It's not enough at all. That's if you're planning on playing, kind of what they do, which is with the five up front, counting the two edges sort of thing. That's your three right there. You don't have nobody else.
No, and there's Lawrence. So I'm sure they'll, we'll
But
see.
Lawrence is not like I said. Lawrence is he's a true 4-3 D end, right? That's what he played his whole career. He's not playing. He's not. That's not what he does. That's not why they signed him. They signed him to be an edge, right?
They put him on defensive line. So I don't know.
We'll
I mean, I
see.
don't disagree with you in
I would
principle.
be I
I'm
would
looking
be
at what they
surprised
put him
if he
in.
plays. I would be surprised to see him in that. The other thing is that kind of role doesn't suit his skill set either necessarily.
Yeah,
So we'll see.
we will
Um,
see.
and then, like I said, though, where is it? Jared Ivey is a big body, 6'6", 270,
Mm,
and they ended up keeping him. And I've seen him listed as an edge, but you could list him as a D end.
yeah,
Um, that more of that again Mike Morris type of role, and that
right.
might change the dynamic too. But I still don't have enough beef in the middle for a
No.
team that's all about the line of scrimmage and the run and all that. They had no beef in the middle, none, zero, nada,
Yeah, it seems
complete.
like they went light on almost every position, but yeah, actually, on almost every position on defense, it seems like they kind of went, except maybe safety.
Mm-hmm.
They seemed to, and maybe it's just because Mike is like, I can coach these guys up. Like I don't need a ton. Like we'll see if that proves to be
I
correct
don't,
or not. But they
I don't,
definitely put
I
a
don't.
lot of resources into the offense,
Well, I do not
and
like when teams do that.
uh,
When teams say we can coach them up and they don't keep enough dudes or the right dudes, I do not like that at all.
when I say coach them up, I guess in terms of your depth, because your starters are cemented. Like I don't think we have any questions about who the starters are on this
No,
defense, and
no.
maybe that's part of the logic. I mean, maybe not, I guess not as much coach them up as maybe that's the wrong terminology, but I can make do. Perhaps is a better, I mean, he's got
No,
quality starters, and maybe he just doesn't feel like he needs the depth. I don't know if that
make
is.
do somewhere else. Don't make do on the D line in the middle. You need them big dudes,
I
right?
don't know,
That's not a
man.
big do position. Because what happens?
I'm trying to follow the logic here. I
What what
agree with you.
what
I'm just trying
happens
to
when you
find. I
you
agree
put a
with you.
you put a dude that doesn't have the heft or the size to hold up in the middle, and all of a sudden, Ernest Jones has a guard on him all the time, or a center on him all the time because the D tackle can't hold up. I don't know. I'm not criticizing them. I think there are now if we go into week one with this same defensive line group, that's different. I don't think we will. My prediction is
Yeah.
we absolutely will not go into week one with these guys as our D line. I think you're
Or
going to add
just our D line. I think it's a good group D line. They just need some depth.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. You get one injury in the middle,
Right.
one injury, and what are you going to do, right? The other thing is they must not believe in Bohanna or Peely because you kept a Connor O'Toole or a Jared Ivey or a Brady Russell or a Nick Callerup over or a Drake Thomas over those guys, right? You made the choice to keep more players at those positions than we anticipated, and at the cost of keeping one of those guys in the middle. And I think that's
I
something.
think that's less of an indictment on their belief in those guys and more them prioritizing development and upside. Because they kept the young guys and they let go. I mean, Brandon Pilly's
Connor
young, but
O'Toole, wait, Connor O'Toole
isn't he a rookie?
upside? He
I
might
thought
be
he was.
young, but he don't have no upside.
No, he's still very raw as a ed. He was a converted wide receiver, so he's still very much a learning the position. He's pretty raw,
Sure, or
actually.
I don't think there's a ton of upside in a Derek Young. I don't think there's a ton of upside in a Brady Russell or a Nick Caller.
I don't know that that's true. Actually, I can see how the coaches would say that there is because Derek Young's one dealt with a lot of injuries, so he's not really gotten the
Yeah, but
healthy.
we've been talking about Derek Young's upside since 2005. You know what I'm
No,
saying? Like,
well, no, I don't.
come
Again,
on,
the
bro.
guy's got a lot of injuries, and he's made a tangible step. We're not still talking about his upside. We're talking about he's made a step to be a valuable contributor now. I think that in and of itself,
As a
and
special teams player.
no, he's not just a special teams player. He earned that as a wide receiver, and by all accounts, I'm reporting like his reps at wide receiver were genuinely good. And I was impressed with what I saw in the preseason as well. It's preseason, yeah, but like he also hadn't really had great
You
preseason.
know how many targets he's had in his NFL career
That's
as
why
a
I
wide
said
receiver?
upside. That's why I
But
said upside.
he's been with the team since 22.
Yeah, but he's been injured for like a year and a half of those. Legitimately, like he spent
I don't
most of he missed an
I
entire
don't
year.
think when we talk upside, I don't think Derek Young will ever be anything other than a number 4 receiver.
Yeah, that might be. I think he could maybe get to number three. I think now is he a top two guy?
In
No,
the
I'm not saying he's that.
in the UFL or in the NFL?
In the NFL. I think you're being a little low on Derek Young. I think he's had a really strong camp. I think he's had a tough break of luck. I think this team's been high on him for some time. And I also think this team had Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, and then drafted JSN. So you tell me where he was supposed to fit in anyway to get the reps.
Sure. I don't. Again, I just based on talent. Even if we're talking about a healthy Derek Young, I don't see him being anything other than a number 4 receiver. And I think they had multiple of those guys. I understand why they kept him. I would have kept him too. Again, like I said before, I would have cut a Connor O'Toole or one of those types of dudes before I cut Derek Young. It's not about criticizing Derek Young for me. I just go back to the idea that this line looks really, really short
It
in
does.
coverage.
I just think they must feel like they can get those guys back, which I think they can. Like I'm not really worried about them not being able to get them back on practice squad if they want them, right? There's a question about if they want them, but
Well,
I
that's
think
another thing. If they were truly talented, if they were truly talented, they truly believed in him, they would have kept him the way that they did with the other guys.
I'm gonna tell you why I disagree. I don't think Mike McDonald values nose tackle that much. I think it's been proven. Like he has not
He had a
shown
great one in Baltimore, though. That was the key to that defense.
he wasn't a coach. Like when he's the coach, they have not done a good job of keeping a
I
bunch of
think.
nose tackles around
I think.
or making sure that that position. I mean, John Hankins was their answer last year. I mean, it's just not something they prioritize. They just get some dudes off the street. It
I think
seems like
they kind of do. I
they
think. But
do.
let me ask you this then: does that come across as is there a bit of arrogance in that to you?
To be determined. He might be right. I mean, he knows his scheme better than I do. I won't say it's arrogance. Like he knows the intricacies of where how
How,
much that position matters way more than I do. I can't say it's arrogant if you don't
how
if
many
safety
defenses?
matters more.
How many
Then
great defenses don't have beef up front?
quite a few.
Really?
Which ones are you thinking of? What
I
mean
mean, any
what
of them. We can.
strong what household nose tackles are you thinking about?
We don't know nose tackles necessarily. I don't think your average fan knows nose tackles as much as actual coaches and scouts and whatnot. But you look at I think it's a false narrative when people say that you know that you can find that nose tackle off the street. The whole key to Tampa Bay's defense is Vita Vea. That defense is like 10 spots better when Vita Vea plays. He's the whole key to that defense, right? You look at I'm forgetting his name, the nose tackle in Baltimore is the key to that defense,
Michael
right?
Pierce.
Yes, he's the key to that defense, right? I think they are underrated, and I think they're players that do a lot of dirty work that don't accumulate a ton of sacks. They don't look at Dexter Lawrence. He's the key to the Giants defense. Now the Giants need help in other places on that defense, but Dexter Lawrence is that the best player on that defense hands down, right? I just I go back to the fact that I think that this is a grown man's game, and you have to have that guy. You have to have that guy in the middle. You
I
look
don't
at what's his name that got drafted, Tavondre Sweat in Tennessee. Tavondre. Now they had Jeffrey Simmons already, But Tavondre Sweat is what made that defense, and what made that D line was him next to Simmons, because he takes up so much space. 360-pound D tackle, right? I think that it's a underrated position, and I think it's a position that the Seahawks still need to add to this defense. And I think we run the risk of being ran on more so than we think we should, without somebody taking up two blockers in the middle like that.
Well, I yes and no. I think there's a chance this team gets ran on anyway, just because Mike McDonald has not particularly been known to have like
Great run.
elite run defense. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like that's just not, again, that's just not something he prioritizes. His thing is confusing you in the backfield and disguising in coverages and all of that. And I think he just is trying to be competent enough in the run game that it's not a liability.
Right.
Um, I can't. I mean, sometimes you have to pick your strengths. I can't say that that's flawed because last year was pretty effective because John Hankins wasn't on. I mean, how many snaps did that guy miss? I mean, it's
Right.
not like they just leaned in. I mean, he was on the roster technically, but it's not like he was just a
Right. He played
major
first.
starter.
You still need someone though, first, second down, and goal line type situations. You need somebody in there to anchor. Right. Here's the thing. I think about this D line with, say you have a decent nose tackle and a backup that's a big dude that can take up space. Now you can rotate Williams, Murphy, Reed as the three on either side of that nose tackle as your three defensive linemen. To me, that's what makes sense, right? Because now you're rotating your three, I guess, stars on the line, if you want to call it that, and you have a situation where they can still stay semi-fresh by being able to rotate. You run the risk, I think, with those three guys being your guys and not having a ton of depth, of them getting worn down as well.
Yeah.
It's the roster makeup is. I hope somebody asks uh, either John or Coach McDonald what the thinking was on the D line with regards to the nose tackles. I'd be very interested to hear what they have to say.
Yeah, I would too. I think I'm not saying it's not important. I just think it's less important than other areas. And I think I remember doing some research on this actually because I was panicking. I believe going into year one of Mike McDonald last year, doing research on nose tackles and all of that. And really, when I looked around, teams are going more light in that regard. Now we'll see if the pendulum swings the other way, but teams were a lot of the defensive linemen. You weren't seeing these big 310, 315, 320 guys. Like you just weren't seeing that when you looked across the league. Of course, there's always going to be a few, but there just weren't a ton of guys of that size.
Part of that was that there was such a focus on the passing game over the
Right,
last couple of years, but
right.
I think it's gone back towards uh, you've seen philosophies revert back towards the running game again.
Yeah,
Last year, at least, we did. And I
yeah,
think that when you're right, though, when teams are spreading you out and chucking the ball around the yard, that guy standing in the middle is not doing anything for you, because he's not, unless he can push the pocket. But the guy that occupies blockers for the middle linebacker, that was a philosophy of yesteryear in a lot of ways. But because the running game is becoming so important again, I think that particular position has become important again. I
yeah.
just
You're right.
I don't know. We're going in circles a little bit, I think, because I think they've got at least one, maybe two moves on that
Yeah,
D line before week one. They
yeah,
have to. They have
yeah.
to.
Yep,
Uh,
agreed. Other notable things, your boy Ty Okada made it. I called that one a couple weeks ago. Ultimately, on my
funny.
final prediction, I did not have Ty Okada making it, mostly just because I didn't think they'd keep that many safeties,
Yep.
because I thought they'd keep more defensive linemen. So,
Right.
had I known that they weren't going to keep that many defensive linemen, I definitely would have had Ty Okada making the line, making the roster. But
He beat out Jarek Reed though, and Jarek Reed is a talented safety, right? So the fact that he beat out Reed does mean something.
mhm, yeah,
I think there's certainly a special teams element to Ty Okada's game that helped him make this team.
and Reed. Well, Reed's had I mean, before his injury, he was like the star of special teams. So I mean, I think it's coaching thing. I think Reed thrived in the system that we had before. Not sure
Mhm.
that Jarek Reed thrives in this system, and I don't know how much the injury has hurt him. So, you know,
Right.
there's
Or-
that.
No
Anthony Bell made
surprises
it.
at corner.
No
Um,
surprises at corner.
Spoon, Woolen, Job, Pritchett, Shaq Griffin. Um, I don't know. I don't know what Shaq has left. We'll see.
I
Pritchett,
know.
I'm a little more confident in Pritchett than you are. I like his athleticism, but we'll see. This is clearly a make or break year for him, right? And then
For I was just gonna say for Griffin, I think he's one of those guys. He never had a high ceiling, but I think his floor is stable enough. Like I don't think he's at the age where he's killing you out there. As long as he's not starting for you,
he used to do
unless
boss. He used to do some bonehead stuff when he was here the first time. That's why it makes me a little bit nervous. But I'm sure he's a different
well,
player now.
a little bit. But his biggest issue was more so not getting his head turned around. That was the boneheaded stuff.
Well,
His
that's
biggest
bonehead. If
problem.
you can't turn your head as a corner, that's bonehead. I'm sorry.
I'm just that was his biggest like his inability to make plays on the ball was like
He
his
was
always
he was
that's his
like a
biggest
20
thing.
awareness Madden cornerback, where he had athleticism, but he had no idea what was going on around. He used to drive me crazy. That's why I don't know. I guess he plays a
I
role. We'll
was fine
see.
with Jack. I mean,
I liked him when they
but
drafted
I
him.
will say I remember Shaq and Trey Flowers playing together. So I was far more worried about Trey Flowers than I was
I like
Shaq
Trey
Griffin.
Flowers. Trey Flowers didn't bother me. Shaq
What
did
do
more
you
than Trey
mean Trey
Flowers did.
Flowers didn't bother you?
I know he used to get burnt. I know all the time. All the time he'd be trailing across her over the middle and then like almost make the tackle, but they would catch it and be gone for like 30 yards over and over again. I remember.
Bro tackled like Bambi out there.
I
He was just
remember. Yeah,
looking.
but so
I
does Woolen.
mean,
So does Woolen. We
no,
don't
no,
criticize him like that.
no. I think Willard's more talented than Trey Flowers
Yes,
at
more
this point.
talented. Yes, tackling like Bambi though is what you said, not talented.
Well, no, he was actually a lot better last year, and his run defense actually
He
was.
did
He
get
was
better.
actually pretty solid.
He
He was
did get
solid.
better.
Yeah.
So linebacker, they cut O'Connell, Ross, Sheriff, and Tyreek Smith, but
Yep.
kept Connor O'Toole. We didn't really talk about Jared Ivey. I see him as an edge, not a off ball, but they places I looked, they had it all mixed up together. But start with linebackers. So Knight, Ernest Jones, Connor O'Toole, Drake Thomas.
Those are
How's that make you feel?
those are guys. I feel the same way I always felt. They're guys.
Not
But
Jones. Jones not a
I'm
guy.
gonna give Mike McDonald the benefit
Jones
of the
ball.
doubt because I thought Tyrese Knight was a guy.
Hmm?
So I'll hang back. All
Well,
right.
and
If he sees something in Connor O'Toole, then so be it.
we'll
I have
see.
nothing to say. I'm not gonna get burned this year. You're not gonna give me Mike McDonald. Nope.
I got you too with Tyrese Knight. I liked him. Uh, or no, Ernest Jones. I think we forget how good he was last year. We forget how much he
Yeah.
changed that defense when they acquired him. I could see him leading the NFL in tackles this year. Like he's that good, right?
Oh no, I wasn't talking about Ernest Jones when I said those are
Right.
guys.
No, for
I meant
sure, for
I
sure.
meant the
But the other
difference.
guys, I'm not a big Drake Thomas fan. Another special teams guy. He's played okay.
Yeah.
In the limited time he's had, I don't know Connor O'Toole. They must see something in him. I'm not making that joke. They must see something in him, though. And then, Knight. We'll see about Knight's health. So Edge. Let's go to Edge before I get myself in trouble. Derek Hall, Boye Mafe, Nwosu, Jared Ivey, and then I put Dexter Lawrence in that group as well. And Ivy, like I said before, could be grouped with Morris. Really, it's four plus the four we would expect plus Ivy. I'm comfortable with it. I think that this is a big year for Mafe, as I've said before, because he's a free agent after this year. I think Nwosu's got to show quite a bit, meaning be healthy and be the same player he was
Hmm.
in order to have a future with the Hawks.
Yeah.
Um, Lawrence is going to produce, not at the level he used to, but he's also a huge presence in the locker room and a big leader. I'm excited to see what he has to provide. And then Hall, I think Hall is so explosive and so athletic. You're like, he could either disappear and we wouldn't re-sign him after next year, or he could have 14 sacks and we wouldn't be surprised. I think he has that kind of talent and explosiveness. We'll see what we have in him this year. But I'm comfortable with this edge group. I don't, if I had to grade it, I'd give it like a B plus because there is talent. And I think Mafe and Hall both have tremendous upside, but I'm not I'm not going into it saying they're great, and I'm not 100% comfortable with the group. is the best way for me to put it.
Yeah, I'd say I'm somewhere in there. I think you're a little higher on the guys than I am, but I think there's I'm big on a floor. There's a floor there, so I'm not freaking out. I'd
Right.
love more upside. I know you
I'd
say
say,
Derek
yeah,
Hall
I
has
think
upside.
Hall and Mafe. I think has shown Mafe, what was it, last year or 2 years ago? Like the beginning of the year, like he showed all pro potential. The
I
way
never
that he
bought in that.
could establish the edge, the pressure that he was putting on the quarterback, he looked like a star, right? There was a lot of talk about, do we sign him? Like, how much money is he going to make from the Seahawks, sort of thing. And then he got hurt and he fell off a bit. But I think the talent is there. And I think Hall really does have the ability to get the quarterback in a different sort of way. So I do think there's upside there. It's
I
just
think
the
both
question.
those guys are number twos. I think they're
I think
both number twos.
See, I
I
think
think
Mafe can be a one. I think Mafe is good, good.
I don't. And if I had to bet on somebody being a one, I'd bet it'd be Hall, actually. I
Yeah,
think Boye had a
more
very
explosive.
good year, but I think that's the best year we'll ever. Like, I feel like that's his peak.
He's a dude that but he's, from what I've read and seen, his he works and works and works at his craft, right? And there's things about, some of the hand fighting stuff and some of the leverage stuff that he's continued to work on, and he's gotten better at it. And those kinds of players, I think, can continue to grow and get better. The thing I think we don't think about is, I think he's 28 or 29 already. So as far as his physical peak goes, he's pretty close,
Right.
or maybe just slightly post peak.
Right.
So do you want to throw a bunch of money at a dude who you think maybe his best years behind him? I don't know.
Yeah, if you
Uh,
have to pay him like a one, I don't want it. If you can, if you can negotiate a contract with him that would be, you know, along the lines of a good two, then I
right.
absolutely want to keep him. But I don't think you pay him like a one.
I think it depends on, for me, it depends on what he does this year. If
It
it's
will.
12 sacks and he establishes the edge in the run like all the time, I think you got to think about it. Sometimes you got to overpay too. I think you got to think about it, because where else are you going to find it? He's 20, so he'll be 27 during the season.
Yeah, we'll see. It's a big year
I
for
don't
him for sure. I think he's more. I don't think he's bad. I just think he's pretty good.
If you had two of him, right? If he played well this season and you had two Maffes, right? To me, that's a very good edge group, right? I think he's a 2 plus. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah,
We don't have
no,
to. We don't have to spend no more time on Boye
no,
Mafe. We're
cool,
good.
good, very good. Thank you.
So
All right.
overall with the 53, are you comfortable? Does it excite you? Was it shocking? Like, what's your like quick synopsis of the cuts that were made today?
I'm a little surprised around the margins, but a lot of this group and this roster was made. I mean, that's really how it is. After the draft, the roster kind of takes care of itself.
Mhm.
So in terms of the margins, I definitely was surprised in some bits, and I'm curious about some of the storylines that'll happen and who will actually be on the team come week one. We'll
Right,
see. But I'm not, because my surprise is in the margins. I'm not
right,
really. I'm not
right.
that phased. Like, I don't think it'll make that big of a difference.
Right. No, yeah, I don't. I think it is. The one thing could make a difference, as I beat into the ground, was I think that nose tackle position could make a difference down the line. Some of the other stuff, yeah, is it going to affect whether the Seahawks are good this year or not? I don't necessarily think so. I think the MVS thing is interesting if you walk it back 2 months, as opposed to looking at what's happened the last couple of weeks. And then I'll continue to watch Damian Martinez to see what he becomes or doesn't become, because I like him. I thought he was interesting. All right.
All right.
Prediction. Let's get it.
Seahawks predictions. So predictions show episode. Starting to do that this year. I think we've called some shots before, but we've not made it official. So
Uh,
I came up with some categories I think would be fun to do. Some of them we'll just run through real quick, and then some of them we might debate. We'll see. I'm sure we'll end up
us,
debating. But
we won't debate nothing.
all right. So who do you have as your leading rusher for 2025?
I have Zach Charbonnet, like 200 attempts, 900 yards, 10 touchdowns. I think.
Okay, I
I
did
think.
not do stat lines,
I think
but
Walker. Well, we're good. We're good. Well, I think Walker comes close, but I think Charbonnet has more carries, and I think Charbonnet has more touchdowns. I think he leads the team touchdowns, carries, and yards, but I think that it's not to say that Walker doesn't have a role. I just think Charbonnet has a bigger role.
I got K9 as being the leading rusher, though I do think Charbonnet will get more carries. I think ultimately he'll play more games. I just think K9 will have enough explosive runs that it'll kind of offset. And even if he plays less games, which I'm sure he will, he'll still have more yards, is my
Mhm.
guess. Could be
Okay,
wrong, but that's my
that's
guess.
fair. I just want
All
him to run
right,
the
leading
ball out.
receiver,
Hey, I don't care which one runs the ball. I just want him to run the ball. It don't matter to me if it's Charbonnet or K9. Leading receiver Jackson Smith and Jigba.
mhm.
Um, I said, and this is more of a comment on how I feel about Darnold. I said 85 catches, 900 yards, and 4 touchdowns, and he's going to lead the team in receiving.
Yeah, that's yeah. I'm interested to see where this goes. Yeah, I got JSN. I didn't do stat lines for the guys, but I do got JSN as the leading receiver, leading tackler.
Ernest Jones,
Same, same.
100,
I
you
think
know,
I
100,
think he'll. Yeah.
155 tackles is what I had. I see him as top five in the league.
Mhm.
Tackles. They're going to funnel everything towards him anyways. You know what I mean? It's not. He's going to be alone out. He's going to be alone out there without Tyrese Knight quite a bit too. So he's going to be expected to make a lot of those tackles against the running game and the
Yep.
short passing game.
Agreed. All right. How many total sacks do you have for the defense?
So they had 54 last year, which I think ranked in the top.
45.
I have
Oh,
54.
oh, not too
Whatever it
bad.
is, I said they're going to have 65 sacks this year, and I think they're going to be in the top three. I think they're
I
going to
said
get.
55.
I think they're going to get to the quarterback a ton, and I don't necessarily think it's going to be one dude. As the Mike McDonald defense tends to open up opportunities all across that line. Um, I do think having Eamon Worry and Spoon make a difference as well because they're able to get to the quarterback. But I think this defense puts a ton of pressure on quarterbacks this year.
Yeah. No, for sure. No, for sure. I'm with you. Um, I'm not. I think the only reason I'm not as high as you is just because I still we don't have that dominant edge rusher, which isn't the make or break by any means. I think there'll still be a very dominant defense, but it holds me back a little bit from going to 66. Just a little. Love to be wrong though. All right, next topic was here we go. Sam Darnold stats. Sam Darnold stats.
So 68% completion, which is I think 2% higher than what he did last year. He is an accurate quarterback. He just sometimes he throws to the wrong color, but he's accurate to them too. So there's that. 3,500 yards, 20 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. I don't have a tremendous amount of confidence in Darnold. I think he has a year somewhere in between what he did last year and what he had done previously. And I don't think they're going to throw the ball a ton, right? I think they're going to throw the ball when they need to, and I think there will be some play action as an element of surprise, but I don't see them, especially when you look at this roster now. I don't see him throwing the ball that much, so I don't think he's cracking 4,000 yards, and I think they're going to try to run the ball in
Yeah, give me the touchdowns, interceptions again.
20 and 12.
20 and 12. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's a difference. All right, so I'm with you. I don't quite think that they crack 4,000. I've got them at I got them at 39.85. I've got 67% completion. I don't think accuracy is
Well, I was
yeah.
counting his
I think
interceptions
I
too.
think yeah, that's what I don't think I quite got him as a 67 at 68, but 67. And then I got 28 touchdowns. He had 35 last year. I got 28 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. So
How many touchdowns?
28, 28.
Who's he throwing them to? They getting a new
All of
receiver?
the guys.
Hey,
I
they
think
getting
all
a
of
new
them.
receiver. They getting
I think
Justin Jefferson or what?
honestly, who's ever open, I don't think this offense is about funneling it to one guy.
It's
I think it's
not.
about whoever's open is going to get the ball. And cool with
Yep.
me. They got enough dudes.
The
I
defense.
know that
The
much.
defense is open. The
Yeah,
defense don't
whoever's
want
open.
to.
I think Tariq Young might have a decent year. I think Torrey Horton. I think JSN Cooper Cook. I mean, ain't enough options. I don't think there's anybody game changing. But I think that's the
Right.
point of the offense. It'll probably be more like a point guard situation.
Right.
Is what I
Distributing.
anticipate. Yeah.
Okay. All
All
right.
right.
Well,
Record prediction. We've already been through this, but I've got a slight adjustment.
I do
I got
too.
11-6. 11-6. I had 12 wins at first, but
So I
I've
went through again. I
lost
got
one back.
7 and 10. Wet
7 and
blanket.
10.
Wet blanket 7 and 10.
7 and 10 is wild.
That's not wild.
That's wild.
That's
For
not
this
wild.
schedule, that's wild.
We'll see. You
We
said what?
will.
11 and 6.
11
You
and
said
6.
11 and 6. All
I think
right.
they, I think they do one game better than last year.
Okay.
All right. Division predictions.
Who do you have winning?
I got a tie. Well, I got Seahawks technically winning, but I got both the Seahawks and the Rams at 11-6.
Okay. I do have the Rams at 11 and 6. Arizona at 9 and 8,
I do
and
too.
San Francisco at 8 and 9.
Wow. So the only thing we have different is the Seahawks. That's
And
insane.
it's like this different.
We literally got those are my exact numbers for
It's
every.
hilarious.
Yeah, 11-6 Seahawks, 11-6 Rams, 9-8 Cardinals, 8-9
That's
49ers.
funny. But the Hawks were on completely different places.
That's
Telling
crazy.
you, this is the football mismatch right here. I love it.
Oh, okay. All right. So yeah, obviously in your
Playoff
case,
outcome
you don't
prediction,
have any playoff
not,
predictions.
not applicable. NA, that's what I got.
Yeah, I got wild card playoff loss. I think they make the wild card and just lose out in game one.
Sure.
All right. Rookie impact prediction. Who's the most impactful rookie?
My prediction is that so I have two Pro Bowlers as rookies.
Mm.
Gray
How do you
Zabel,
have that and have them being 7-8, dude?
because Sam Darnold,
That's insane.
and a lack of talent, and the lack of talent at wide receiver, and a lack of talent or a lack of having seen what's going on in the offensive line.
If they were playing more AFC contenders, I'd be with you, but they're not.
So I got
They are
so
not.
Gray Zabel, I think, and this is kind of a hot take type prediction, right? I think Zabel has a real chance to be a Pro Bowler. I think he's that good.
Yep.
And that's me and Crow when they first drafted him too. I've come around, and I think Eamon Worry. I have my bold prediction is that Eamon Worry is a Pro Bowler. I say that because the type of kind of attractive stat line I think he could put up. He's the type of talent and has the skill set to have 5 picks and 7 sacks in his rookie year, right? Because they're going to send him after the quarterback, because he's going to play a lot of short zone, and because he does have the ability to play center field as a safety if need be. I think he is more talented than we realize, and I think we're going to see his athleticism show up immediately on this defense.
I got the rookie impact as Grace Abel. I'm with you
Mhm.
there. I'm not sure if he quite makes the Pro Bowl, but I think he gets close.
This
Almost like
is
a
a, this is a
Dominic
again, this is
Philly.
more of a hot take bold prediction for me. I
Yeah,
wouldn't put money on it, but I think that it could happen.
fair. Yeah, that's fair. Not as high on Nick Emenwari this year. I think based on what I've seen in preseason, he's still got a ways to go in terms of processing the game. His eye discipline still seems a little bit off. I think once he gets that, he'll be great. In fact, I could see him having a slow first half of the season and then like taking off, right? But I don't know if that'll be enough for us to. I think we'll be excited about him. I think he'll show some really cool flashes. I think we'll see his impact certainly. But I think he'll also have some stuff that pisses us off. So
Yeah.
I
If
anticipate it'll
if
be up
I'm
and down.
reading if I'm reading the tea leaves correctly though with Coach McDonald, I do think they will try to point him in the right direction and have him try not to process quite as much in the beginning,
Mhm.
to utilize his athleticism, right? And I think that's smart. And as he plays the game more, as he gets more reps next off season, you can put him in more processing kind of opportunities.
Right.
But if it's me and I got a guy who's that big and that fast and has hips that are actually slippery, right? I'm saying to him, hey, okay, you're gonna blitz. And I don't care how you get to the quarterback, but you're gonna get to the quarterback, right?
Right.
Or you're going to play this short zone. We're not going to, do anything fancy. I need you to blow up the receiver if they're in front of you, and I need you to be able to anticipate. But this is your area, and this is what you're going to do, right? If you keep him away from the complexity and allow him to utilize his athleticism, I think that's the kind of situation where you see him thrive year one. Because you're right, it's hard to process all of that, especially when you're trying to play multiple positions.
Hmm. Yeah. All right. Offensive DVO ranking. What'd you put? Did you put a range or did you just pick a number?
So I picked a number, but you can figure out the range around it. I said 24th. I think I could see kind of a low to mid 20s sort of DVOA rank that falls in line for me with um, it really just it hinges on Sam Darnold and that offensive line, right? And so if Darnold is what I think he is, this offense isn't going to score a ton of points, right? This offense isn't going to move. I still think the running game is going to be pretty good, but to me, this we're not going to see this offense become average or great until next year, at least.
Yeah, I put a range initially between
Mhm.
12 and 18. I think I lean more 16, 17, somewhere in there, like right under the middle. It's slightly below average, but still on the higher end of that is where I fall. All right, defensive DVOA.
4. I think they're a top 5 defense, and I think
I got 3.
it as long as I get that nose tackle taken care of. But I think this is a very talented defense, and I think they 7-10 record doesn't reflect a number 4 ranking defensive DVOA wise. I think they lose a lot of close games because of the quarterback play, but I think this defense is going to be phenomenal this year.
Yep. Yep, I agree. All right. On a
Under,
redemption
under,
opportunity. Abe
under.
Lucas
Hammer
over
the
or
under.
under 8 games.
Hammer the
Still
under.
taking the under. I'm
Yes.
taking the over. Hopefully, we don't have any more tummy aches that interfere with my
I
ability to win this bet.
I want him to play. I can't because he's the most talented right tackle on this team, right? And I think the line is
Well,
a lot
yeah,
better when he does play.
this isn't saying much. It's not saying much.
I know, but like
It's such a backhanded compliment.
I want him to play. I just his history says he won't.
Not this year. Well, I think we've got the strongest start that we've had since his rookie year.
Fragile. He's fragile.
I think he's
He,
got the. I
I'm
think
not
we've
bet.
seen him more this preseason than we have as a rookie
I
almost.
am not taking a over on a dude that sat out because of a tummy ache. I'm sorry.
He didn't set out, man. The team set him out. I'm telling you, the team set him out.
But how did
They
they even
said it
know
was
he had
worth
a
it.
tummy ache?
They didn't want to risk playing. They
He
didn't want to
must
risk.
have said something. He must have said something.
I'm sure he said his stomach hurt or something, but I also don't think that they. I just don't think they wanted to play him.
I don't
Like at
want
that
football
point, they
coaches.
didn't have.
Can you imagine if
I,
you're the coach and your player's like, "Hey, coach, I got a tummy ache." I'm
I
like, man,
know. I think it comes down to this. They knew going into that game they weren't making the playoffs. They weren't going to risk his health or potentially him actually getting injured for real. Like I'm not even sure he said his stomach hurt. I don't think they had any intention to play him if the playoffs were not on the line. And since they weren't on the line, they were going to sit him because it was more important that he get
that's
healthy for next year.
that's how fragile he is, though. Is that even though he was healthy, they sat him because they were worried about him getting hurt.
I mean, that matters because he's had a healthy
Right.
offseason. I think that matters, man. Honestly, I'll take that. Like, I don't want him playing in a meaningless game. Like, get healthy, have a healthy offseason, the first one in
Yeah,
years,
yeah.
and then go out there and prove it. Now, if he's had a fully healthy offseason and then he still gets hurt early on, like, or even like if we still have injury issues with Abe Lucas next year, then all right, cool. He's officially
Right.
injury prone, but
Oh, he's already officially injury prone. That's long gone.
I
That
don't
shit
think
was
so. I
past.
think he had an issue that they took a while to figure out. He's gotten the surgery. He's got
Yeah, injury
cleaned up,
prone. The issue was that he was injury prone. Now they know.
but he wasn't injured last year. They just sat him out for preventative measures. He wasn't injured last year.
He was injured at the beginning of the year.
Well, yeah, but he was coming back from the surgery. He wasn't injured. He was recovering from the surgery. He recovering from
He,
the surgery, come back to
he
play, but
injury
still,
prone.
yeah,
Injury prone.
no, I'm it's not injury prone in my mind yet. If they fix this issue, it's the same issue, right? So like, it's hard to
Yeah,
say injury prone if you just got a
injuries.
nag.
Injuries. That's the issue.
It's the
Hold
one
on.
injury,
Hold
man.
on.
It's
Hold
one
on. Hold on.
injury,
I
one
got. I
injury.
got. I got to see how many games he's played each year.
It's only
I
been
might,
like
I might not be able to
2
bring it up. Whatever. We can leave Abe Lucas alone. I take the under. You take the over. We're good.
Yeah, let me. I actually now I want to know how many games has he played this year. I now want to know. I'm sure it's not hard to find.
All right, I'll start with the next category where you look it up. Additional or more unique, additional more unique predictions.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
all right. That'll improve the most.
I said see the rookies because the Eamon Wari and Zabel being Pro Bowlers I think is hot take enough. The other one I said is I think Charbonnet is the undisputed starter by midseason. I think by
Oh
midseason Charbonnet is the lead back and K9 is still playing, but I think he's playing less than Charbonnet. Charbonnet is the one you want in fantasy. Blah blah blah.
yeah. All right. Hey, go back to eight. All right, you got 16 games, six, and then seven.
So he played 16 games his
Rookie
rookie year.
year. Yep,
What? How many?
16.
Six. And then, well, no, how many year two?
Oh, six because he was hurt, and then
And
seven
because
recovering back from that injury.
he was hurt.
So
Got
there was
it.
like a year and a half of like when he got hurt, them knowing not how to fix it, him getting the surgery, getting it fixed, getting back on the field, and so far so good. But we'll see.
Okay.
Big year for him though, health wise, no question about that.
Mhm.
Um,
So
all right,
your
so
unique predictions.
so when I put unique predictions, I meant all the categories below that were like the
Oh,
more
oh,
unique
oh, oh, my
ones.
bad. My
But that's cool. I
bad.
like what you got though. I like what you
My
got.
bad.
So I just jumped straight to like stats
Yeah.
that will improve
Uh-huh.
the most. Stats that will improve the most from last season, in my opinion, is third down conversions.
Uh-huh.
I think this team will be a lot better in executing on those type of situations for a lot of reasons. But I would say that probably the most improved stat, mostly because the Seahawks were like the worst at that. It's not hard to improve off like
Right.
being one of the worst in the league.
Right. I said sacks. Obviously, I think they're going to get 65 sacks. That's a stat that I think they're going to improve a ton on. And
But
then
they were
just
eighth.
overall, what's that?
They were eighth last year though. They weren't that far. They were still top 10.
I know. But I think the numbers going to grow too, and I think they are going to be better, even better. And then overall team defense, DVOA rank, that sort of thing. I think they're just going to go from being a respected good defense with potential to a top defense this year.
Mhm. Yep, with you there. All right, stats that will decline the most.
That's it. Everything having to do with Sam Darnold. If you compare him to last year and what he did in Minnesota, I think his stat line won't look anything like it. And I just his completion rate might, but yards, touchdowns, that sort of thing. I think and then you compare him to what Gino did last year. I just think it's the passing game is going to suffer this year because of Sam Darnold, in my opinion.
I think the passing game was going to suffer because of the offense. Frankly, I mean, this offense was never going to
Yes,
do this. This offense was not going
yes.
to be throwing nearly as much as Ryan Grubb
Ryan Grubb,
was or
right?
Kevin O'Connell was. Frankly, with the Vikings, right? Like those are pass first dudes. So I
Yep,
don't think you were going to see a stat line equal to that. On that alone, I don't count that as a knock on Sam as much as situation. We also don't have Justin Jefferson, so there's that. Um, See, I do have passing yards as declining. They were top eight last year, probably just because they threw it so much, not because
right,
the offense was good. Um, and I think that they'll probably be, I'm not gonna say bottom 10, but maybe right above that. Like I'd guess like 19th or something, 18th, 19th in passing yards. Just because I don't think they'll have as many attempts.
right,
I think they got a lot of passing yards last year off a ton of attempts.
right.
So the efficiency was
Garbage
not
time
very
type
good.
stuff. Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree. I agree.
I bet on efficiency. All right, most surprising stat by mid-season.
That will define the team's identity. Sacks. I just think the pressure on the quarterback from this team is going to be intense. And then that Zach Charbonnet is going to average over 4.5 yards a carry. So the running game is going to be functioning well. Charbonnet is going to be carrying the rock, and that he's not, it's not going to be 3 yards in a cloud of dust. This is going to be a 4.5 yard per carry type of running game with him running the ball.
I've got sacks allowed because I actually think the Seahawks might be above the bottom 10 in sacks allowed, I don't think we'll be the worst of the pack. I think we'll be pretty good. Um, dare
Ooh.
I say, approaching average. I think will
Okay.
be. I
I
think
hope
it'll be
so.
flipped.
I'm gonna say I
I
hope
think
so.
it'll be flipped.
I hope
I
so.
think it'll be flipped. So we'll see. Now, I'm not saying they're going to be all stars on there in the offense, but I think we'll see some significant improvement, and I think we'll be surprised at how much better they look in that
Yeah.
regard.
Yeah. That
All
works.
right, stats that drive the team's identity. Yeah, you already talked about. I agree with you. Like the run game's gonna that's this team's
The whole
identity. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
hard to even debate that. All right, what is the one game that the fan base will melt down on Twitter? What's gonna blow up Seahawks Twitter?
My favorite category, all of them. That was my first response was there all the games, but I think on if I'm answering this honestly, it's week 11 at Tennessee because from what when I went down the schedule, they had already had 4 losses in a row going into Tennessee. You've got a team that's reeling, that's traveling to Tennessee, who's not probably not going to be great this year, playing against a rookie quarterback in Cam Ward. And if the team loses a fifth game in a row against a rookie quarterback, which, from a betting standpoint, makes a lot of sense, right? You're traveling across the country to play, and you got two teams that, in my opinion, are pretty equal. Chances are the team that's traveling is the team that loses in those kinds of situations. So it's week 11 at Tennessee, fifth loss in a row, playing against a rookie quarterback. That's when fans will melt down and just say, what are we doing here? Like, we're not making the playoffs. We just lost to a rookie quarterback. Is this the right scheme? Is this the right coach? Is everything going to be okay?
Yeah, I've got that Bucks game. I gotta go back and see what week that is, but I think it's like week 8 or something like that. But I've got them losing that Bucks game. At first, I did not, but I could just see it being a game that you think you should go in and win. It's Baker Mayfield. They got some weapons, but you feel like you should be able to fight against. You should be able to take that on. I could just see a world where they drop the game. I'm just kind of guessing. I just know there'll be a game that we think they should win that
Right,
they lose.
right.
And my guess is it's Bucks, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was any other one, honestly, either. Uh, so yeah, so we'll see where we are. We'll probably check in on these. I'd love to do a mid-season like check in and see
Yeah, I
how
got
we're.
all mine. I keep all mine in OneNote, so I've got mine from when we first started the podcast. So I can bring those. I don't know if I want to bring those back up, but I do think it's, I do think it's interesting that we have the entire NFC West the same, except for
Yep,
the Seahawks, and
I
we've
think
got a
that's interesting
got a
too.
4 game difference with the Seahawks. That's fascinating to me.
Yes, it
But
is.
what's also interesting is I don't. We agree on the defense as well. I think it's all about how quickly this line comes together in Sam Darnold. Those are the differences for the two of us.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest difference. No question. And the offense. I think you're not very high on the Clint Kubiak offense. I'm very high, even higher than Sam. Like more than am I high on Sam Darnold. I'm just
Mhm.
high on what this offense can do from a not necessarily an explosive perspective, but I just think it can get the job done.
Hey, I don't. I like the scheme. I think that you got one good wide receiver at this point. I don't know if Cooper Cup stays healthy,
I
right?
don't
We
know if
don't
he does
really
either.
we don't really know what he is, and I think we have a very talented, you know, pass catching tight end, but he's a rookie, right? To expect him to produce, I don't know if that's necessarily fair to him. And I know my bold prediction was that Gray Zabel's a Pro Bowler, but he's still a rookie as well. And so I just think there are a lot of things that have to go right for this offense to be average even. And I don't know that I see it. The one prediction that I made that I might change is I might say Charbonnet get 1,000 yards, because I do think the running game is going to function pretty well. So I don't know. We'll see. This is more of an indictment of Sam Darnold for me, and having not seen the offensive line prove themselves yet in regular season games. But hey, I would much rather, you were correct than me. As a Hawks fan, I would much rather see 11-7 in the playoffs and winning the division, like 10 out of 10 times. I don't want my prediction to come true. This is just something that based on what I see with this team, this is where I see them finishing this year.
Well, we'll see. All right, let's get us out of here, Tino. Tell the people where you can find them. Here, get us on
Uh,
out.
Tino Jr. 20 on Blue Sky. You can find me there. You can find me on my couch watching some Michigan football this Saturday. you can see me on my couch watching some Seahawks football the following or 2 Sundays after that. I'm just pumped for football season. I can't wait. I've got the games in my schedule, like personal schedule. I'm ready to go. This can't come soon enough.
Awesome stuff. All right. Be sure to follow the show at Seahawks 360 Pod on X. Also, you can follow the show on Instagram at Seahawks 360. If you're listening, thanks for listening to the end, especially if you're still here. Like, subscribe, get notifications for updates. In the meantime, that's it. That's all the time we have for today. We're out. And as always,
Go
go
Hawks.
Hawks.